Well, quite typically, or for me at any rate, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do. I suppose I am going to read some of my poems, and I'll just start off with a couple of poems, and then I'll find out what I really am supposed to do. This is called Poem to Old Friends Who Have Never Met. When I'm not wishing I could find a unicorn, I wish all our old friends knew each other. The very least they deserve is the pleasure of each other's company. We go down by the river, and the rocks would hum with this rich collection of men and women. They would look around and see themselves no longer isolated, no longer points in the darkness, pointing nowhere, but as links in a magnificent chain of impossible flowers girdling the world. And their talk, they are all talkers, would burst like spray in the sunlight, and I would smile, saying nothing, with a bottle of beer in my hand and a small white bird banging in my heart. This is I'll read a different kind of poem. It's called Miss Arbuckle. Miss Arbuckle taught 7th grade. She hid her lips against her teeth. Her bottom, like the ace of spades, was guarded by the Virgin Queen. Miss Arbuckle wore thick-soled shoes, blue dresses with white polka dots. She followed and enforced the rules. What she was paid to teach, she taught. She said that Wordsworth liked the woods, that Blake had never seen a tiger, that Byron wasn't always good but died in Greece, a freedom fighter. She gave her students rigid tests, and when the school let out in June, she painted rings around her breasts and danced by the light of the moon. I've known some teachers that I like to think that they have done that, but I'm not sure. I'll read two more, and I'll see what I'm supposed to do. This is a short sonnet called In Gentler Times. In gentler times, if times were ever gentle, you'd blossom in a peasant blouse and dirndl to linger by a stream below a windmill, while I would weave upon my poet's spindle bright cloth for your white shoulders, a gold mantle of shining praise to cover love's old temple. But now, my love, we know no such example of hopeful days, if hope were ever ample. Today, hope stutters like a guttering candle, the dark too dark for love alone to handle. Godot, because unknown, is worse than Grendel, and love uncertain seems a certain swindle. And yet, my love, our love's as quick to kindle as simpler loves, if loves were ever simple. And let's see what else I got. I'll read vegetables. Okay? Not sure what I'm supposed to do. All right, this is the vegetables poem. It's here. I took the quote, someone said that's fairly well known, and I forgot that the poem I wrote some time ago. But anyway, it's a quote from somebody. Just because they can't say anything doesn't mean they don't hear you coming. Tomatoes in particular feel pain, thin, girlish skin, and seeds quaking in jelly at the first prick. And carrots shrieking silent like St. Bartholomew as you peel them from foot to head. They feel. Disemboweled peas slide into tumbrils, dizzy with air. Beets bleed on the sink board. Celery wilts with its heart in our hands. Squash turns pale on our tables. And when you pick up the knife and walk across the kitchen, shoe heels softly drumming, even the coarse hydra-headed potato hears you humming. I think of vegetables with great sympathy, particularly these days. Did I read Miss Arbuckle yet? I'll read it. I did read it. Oh, okay. I can't remember. I want to read something different. One of the things we've done that poetry has helped a lot is we've traveled and we've seen a lot of the world. So I'm going to read a poem called, it's a sonnet, sort of an inside-out sonnet that I wrote for friends who drove us around Turkey and Yugoslavia, whose name was Hamdi. I mentioned him in the poem. It's called Turkish Coffee. And a yezve, some of you may know a yezve, Jezve. We have one at home now. It's sort of a metal, long-handed cup in which we serve the Turkish coffee, and it's very strong with the grounds all in the cup on the bottom. Turkish coffee. Each time I fill the yezve, I can see and even smell the narrow lane and small bazaar in Sarajevo, where the three of us sat cross-legged bargaining until the set was ours. That was 1981. We all held hands and swore the world was good, despite the rifles splintering the sun along the mosques and churches of your neighborhood. More than coffees turned bitter in this wreck. But I won't forget the charity in your eye when you taught us patiently just how to make it boil, your English accented and sly. Remember to not fill your cup too full, and for best results, go to Istanbul. And I'll just read two more poems, I think. Two different ones. Well, let's see. Okay. I'm going to read one called A Contracted World. I guess you have that there. The Contracted World. February, when leaves sift down like phosphorus, behind a sparking comet's dying thrust above the cloudy gardens of our town. Azalea season. Puffs of pink and white illuminate the shade of limbs that twist out 50 feet and link Brobdingnagian branches where handmade children's tree homes hover. Abandoned stations, above already fading constellations. Nearby, a smokestack spits its bit of sulfur on the breeze, affirming flowers will be gone, but pollution stays. Nothing sticks like shit. Leaves, for example, how they toil not, though on their descent they spin, adding rich acid to the sandy soil, decomposing even as Solomon did, helping to shape death's hypnotic wick, part of nature's wisdom or nature's trick. Our vision's Lilliputian, like falling rain. There's always 100% of pain available, but its distribution's random, if not perverse. In San Francisco de Nenton, the troops descended like a plague of dogs and ran merciless from hut to hut. Here, soft loops of Spanish moss slip from the oaks. They tangle in the blooms. That's what we see. That's our angle. How much of happiness should be earned? How much joy in every accidental breath alloys our just thoughts and natural sympathy until we can't connect with lives unfairly far away in all respects. Next door, our neighbor's 7 hives buzz like engines as he bends behind his veil. The end result, azalea-scented honey. It takes time, it takes love, and it takes money. Now I'll read one more poem. Don't know what one. Okay, 26. This one is called a weird one, called What Wild-Eyed Murderer. We shouldn't worship suffering. The world's a spinning rack where suffering indicates all goes well. We're alive and not curled up in the black hush-hush death dictates as its first condition. No screaming there. We crown ourselves with thorns of past transgressions, sharp spears of deed, spare no rib of pain. Around the cross crash common lightning, usual blood. Who earns our reverence should break both cross and crutch in the face of suffering, while the rack turns and tightens, they'll smile at the sense of touch. Suffering's too common to be worth anything. Joy too rare to be priced. The saints we search for will embrace the earth. What wild-eyed murderer suffers less than Christ? And maybe one more, if I can find one that should be interesting. Well, I had a student who was a very pesty student. And the way I got rid of him, he had a funny name named J. Randall. And I said I could make a poem out of your name on one condition. He said, what? And I said, is that you never come into my office again. So this is the poem how I got rid of a student I didn't like. And this was his real name, was J. Randall. The poem was a lot nicer than this kid, actually. So, J. Randall. J. Randall was an undercover poetry lover. On bottle green links, he'd knuckle the pockets of his narky knickerbockers, duck in the grove by the 13th hole where he shanked his Spalding, and pull out the wrinkled lines on Prufrock, thin and balding. On rain-dark evenings, walking the dog, he'd snap down the brim of his tan fedora, snap up the collar of his London fog, and tie the lout to a doctor's bumper while he read by penlight in alleys off murderous cobblestone streets. Down by the Sally Gardens, my love and I would meet. One evening, when he returned, he found the thread broken which he had taped over his fake bar, and knew that someone had turned around the false bottles and seen his poetry books lined up like bullets in a belt. And 2 weeks later, when Billy Hines casually asked at a party, "Say, Randy, what's a sonnet?" J. Randall stalked him home for 14 blocks and shot him iambically, kaboom, kaboom, between the lines. That was a very story. One more poem. This is the end. The bookshelf. Lying flat on the floor because I'm old and it's good for my back. Counting coins of dust in the twilight and squinting at the books huddled above me like immigrants in ragged overcoats guarding their family secrets. I think you have cost me everything. Stoop-shouldered, nearsighted, soft and white, as a silverfish caught in the binding of the complete works of Henry James. From hours, days, decades spent bent over your pages, when I could have been pruning azaleas or hitting tennis balls with real people. Now, I've been down so long, I'm too stiff to get up or even reach for a book. So I call for help, not expecting an answer, but from the stern and shadowed shelves, Emma and Anna and all the lost, inaccessible women above me cry out with their special accents, words I understand only from their rhythm and inflection. Oh, sorrow, they say, all of them, over and over, Carrie and Carol and Cora and Julia, sorrow, oh sorrow, Catherine and Scarlett and Sonia and Daisy, oh sorrow, sorrow, Molly, oh sorrow, Wendy, sorrow, Sonia and Daisy, oh sorrow, sorrow, Catherine and Scarlett, Dora, Maud, Helen, Hester. And I, like any man who is blindly loved, understands too late, as unhappy endings pour down just sentences on their weeping and guilty prisoner pinned to the floor by threads of vanishing light. Thank you very much.